welcome to the Warrior SuperCast, the podcast for the Wittenwood School District, highlighting the superstars of the district. I am very fortunate to have with me, starting with Dr. Holden, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Dr.
Hi.
Holden, glad you could join us.
Good afternoon, Jason.
Been a little while, but you've brought some great individuals here. We've been so hyped with sports, March Madness, and of course our near win at the state level. But there's coaches in learning as well.
Absolutely.
And you've brought two great people here, Natami Simpson and Brennan Graham, who are project-based learning coaches.
Correct.
How did they come to our district, and what exactly is a project-based learning coach?
Well, that's a great question. So, first of all, Mrs. Simpson and Mr. Graham have been teachers at Winton Woods High School and actually Mr. Graham at one point at Winton Woods Middle School. And they both have experience in project-based learning. So in early 2016, when we found out we won a huge straight A grant to roll out project-based learning in every building over the next 2 years, we knew at that point that we would have to think of a way to build capacity within the system to continue this work. We value the work, but it doesn't come free. So when you put time and money and energy into that, you want to make sure that that continues. And so last year, we were fortunate enough to be able to carve out 2 PBL coaching positions. And so Mrs. Simpson works at Winton Woods High School and Mr. Graham at the middle school. And their role is to really work with teachers, all teachers in each building, and help them really understand the PBL process and tweak that process and make that process work for their particular content area so that we can support student achievement.
Excellent. Well, let's dive right in. Brennan, you're on the middle school side. Obviously, you've touched and been a part of PBL for a while now. When you were approached for this new position, how did that change your mindset? I mean, obviously, you're going from a teaching capacity of children to a teaching capacity of adults.
Yeah, well, I feel like that the district had made a really profound investment in the people that have been doing the work of PBL over the years. And as one of those people who has been there a while and has received kind of the benefits of a lot of that investment, I felt it was only appropriate that I kind of pass on what I've gained through that process to new folks who are new to the process, new to PBL, and are in need of some guidance to get themselves started. So I thought it was a logical next step given the training and the benefits that I'd experienced from the district.
The same with you, Natami. You know, again, dealing with students to teachers now, do you feel that there is any difference?
Oh, there's definitely a difference in student learning versus adult learning and learning the nuances and what that means as far as how we assist teachers and adults in coming to a new understanding of teaching in a new way. Sometimes you have teachers who've been in the field for years and having to look at teaching children in a different way. It takes some coaxing sometimes and education as well. And so there is some difference, but it's well worth it.
Dr. Holden, you know, our district is very unique in many different capacities. Is this new position for both of them something new that's not only to our district, obviously, but something new to the New Tech Network, or is this something that we're kind of exploring and expanding of something existing?
The concept of a coach, of a PBL coach, is not, it's new to us. It is certainly not new to the New Tech Network, and there are other schools throughout the country that do employ really their own staff in this role of process coach, PBL coach. And I think schools who have been in the network for a long time have found that this is a way they can really cement this pedagogy. It becomes their DNA, and so having PBL coaches on the ground helps foster that process.
I like the way you put that you know, you have that mentor or that touchstone nearby, so that if anybody does need the two of you, they have that capacity. Was this type of idea, should I say, shied away of a little, or was it more embraced by your cohorts? Because again, you're all in this new learning capacity, and now, again, people are learning in different ways. Natami, you're shaking your head a lot there, like, yeah, we've seen a lot of changes going on. How do you feel that's gone on?
Well, I think that what really helps is that we have just been out of the classroom for a year. So they know that we are teachers first. And so they look at us with that lens. So when they come to us, they understand that we are coming to help them as a teacher, and we understand the difficulties that, may arise in the classroom. So as far as being in the building in this capacity, I think that they understand our role and are open to that.
You go ahead. I can see you want to add to this as well.
Oh, yeah,
I've got yes.
I'll jump right in.
But
Yeah,
please.
I just wanted to add to that, we don't possess all the wisdom. We've been in their shoes. We're relatively new in this position, and so we're learners right alongside them. And I really feel like as much as we can engage in that process as co-learners rather than as people who are passing something down to our colleagues, then I think that enables our fellow teachers to get on board with what we're doing.
Brendan, do you feel that, Natambi made that comment of changing that focus, shifting it from teacher to learn and, coworker to peer to, it's usually a very difficult process, especially if you've been in a building with the same constituents for a number of years, that they've seen you one way. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you shift that focus? Do you find that it was difficult or easy in your capacity?
I kind of in a unique spot because the building that I'm supporting this year is a building that I once was at, but hadn't been at for several years. So when I transitioned, there were certainly some familiar faces and some old friends, but also a whole bunch of new folks. So I kind of had two different options in terms of how to leverage my relationship with my more experienced colleagues, and then also kind of build that foundation with the new staff. So I kind of had a little bit of both in that situation.
Natambi, where you were coming from, which building?
The high school.
You were from the high
Yes.
school already, so your lens is a little more difficult, would you not say?
Yes and then no, because I have not been a PBL teacher as long as Brennan, and so the teachers that are at my building, they already see me as a learner with them. So that's a shared understanding. Sure. Is that that's what we are, and that's who we are as a building. We are learners first.
Excellent. Absolutely. You are listening and watching the Warrior SuperCast here on Waycross Community Media. We are being coached today by our new PBL coaches, Natambi Simpson and Brendan Graham, as well being joined with Dr. Holden, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Going back to you, Dr. Holden, in regards to this position, these are two absolutely wonderful individuals. If you talk to them outside of the building as well as in the building, how did they find their way to becoming these coaches? How did you help in that decision?
Well, we actually had an interview process, and these two certainly rose to the top. Mm-hmm. I think to be an effective coach, you need to have to possess a certain skill set, and I think what you're seeing and hearing, these two possess. You have to know your stuff. So if they did not know the process of project-based learning, they could not be successful in this. And you also have to have a huge dose of humility. You have to be a learner yourself, because when you work with a range of teachers, from novices to very experienced veterans, everybody needs something different, and you have to be able to provide that, and you have to put everybody in a position where they feel safe and comfortable, and really you have to take an asset-based approach to it. So how am I going to pull out the assets of each teacher at each level of experience to help coach them and make them better again? And it's all driven by supporting our students. So how do I help these adults so that they can in turn better support our students?
Excellent way to put it. Obviously, you all have one major goal, and that is to really be on one page, to be able to possess the knowledge. You don't say all of it, but at least possess the knowledge to bring these teachers to the right page to bring our students to the way they are and where they need to be. What uphill challenge are you finding now? Because obviously this is still, you're all in that learning curve, so to speak, so that when we speak next year, that what will be that hurdle that you've overcome that's really the hard crux to learn, really?
Hard crux to learn.
Or even to dispense in learning.
I have learned more about math this year than I have ever learned, because I'm a social studies teacher by trade. So to support all of the teachers in our building, that has required me to dive into some things that I've been less than familiar with. So I'm hoping that by the end of next year, I won't be treading upstream quite so much in terms of things like that.
I had to read a project in Spanish today. So
Hey.
that's awesome. I think for our building, I think it may be becoming more comfortable. And we display projects and we display student work all the time, but being really comfortable, having that as a part of everything that we do and opening up our building to that bit of authenticity for projects that are needed for engagement. So
Just hearing something like that, I'm a social studies teacher by trade, but I'm doing math. I've just read a report in Spanish. You are definitely going out of the element that you were once so comfortable in to this very broad umbrella. One, I need to know, how do you get a chance to study up on anything like that? And two, how do you make it look so effortless? Because you two are just sitting here like, well, yeah, I did it in Spanish, and obviously it's not easy. I can see it in your faces, but you're not stressed about it. Or is it a good act?
no, I think that one thing, again, that one quality that we have and that is important in a PBL teacher is that willingness to be open to learning no matter what. And so we're not bound by the times of the day, of the school day. So if you're open to learning like that, then it just becomes a part of every day for you and who you are.
I would agree with what Natami said. It's the school day doesn't necessarily set the boundaries for when you do your job, and I find it to be really fun, actually, because I'm a learner myself, and so I enjoy trying to figure out how different things work, even though it's not something that it's not like a first set of skills for me. So.
Dr. Holden, we see the high school and the middle school represented. What about the younger students? Will we be getting a coach for them as well, or will they be, our fine coaches here, be those coaches for them as well?
That's to be determined. I'm not sure if we do have a coach at the younger grades, it would be these folks. Well, the tenets of the process are the same. The execution is pretty different. Particularly at the primary level. I think all teachers deserve to have a coach like Natambi and Brennan. It's really how we're going to deploy that. And do we have the capacity to deploy that? And at those grade levels, does it need to be in the same way? So these are all discussions that we're having, but certainly all teachers in the district really need and deserve support with this as we kind of grow this process.
Sure. One last question before we close out our afternoon. Looking at how we started into Natambi, you're very young to the project-based learning. Brennan, you say you're a little more seasoned. We'll say seasoned.
I appreciate that
We'll
word.
go that way. When you're looking at that, that's the new tech, the project-based learning aspect of it. Now you add your new title to that capacity. When or if will there be a time that you feel that you've, I won't say mastered, because I don't think anyone truly masters everything. We learn something and we grow further. But that section of our life where you're like, I know this and I can move on. And not leaving the district, I'm not saying that. I'm saying going to that next level and bringing this coaching aspect to something new. Obviously, this is new to you now, and you kind of have a baseline of what you would like to see. But when do you feel like that next step is coming as a coach? Or I just created the best interview question and they've stumped them both.
I'm just enjoying doing what I'm doing now, and I must say I haven't looked ahead for that. Kind of still getting my feet wet with the current position, and that's plenty for my plate right now. So.
And I think the same for me. And if you look at how research is giving us more and more information about how people learn, and I don't know if we'll ever get to the point, or if I will ever get to the point to say that I've mastered this.
Sure.
So I don't know how to, yeah.
I understand. I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot. I'm not saying, I'm just curious because it's such we've watched the district grow, we've watched the teachers all grow, we've watched the students obviously grow, and seeing this acceleration, again, we probably didn't even think of coming back together a year later and this position being created, and here we are today discussing coaching. We were talking earlier how it's much easier to have coaches like this as opposed to going to a seminar or teaching workshops so often, that you have that constant contact from the new tech to you to disseminate to your teaching peers. I'm assuming that we can see that we're definitely building that very good connectivity between all of this. Where does that bring new tech and the Warriors next year, 5 years from now? I'm sure, Dr. Holden, you've been looking at that on occasion.
Well, I think, you have to do this really one step at a time. And I think we're better off this year than we were the year before. And next year, I know we'll be better off than we are this year. It's a growth process. And I think it's dangerous to think that there's a finite end, right? So our goal is to continuously improve. We have a long way to go to really get to where we want to be, and I know where our children can be. So I think certainly the way I'm looking at it now is one step at a time. As you said, we didn't even entertain these the year before, these
Right.
PBL coaches, and now we are. So as we look at kind of what's working, what's not working, what do we need to really grow and support, that's going to take us to next year and beyond.
And I think if that's one thing that I've learned sitting behind this desk and talking to the fine people at the district is that you're right, there is no finite. We have been in a growing position for a number of years now, and I think that we may have found things, we won't say they failed, they just didn't work for us. And they morphed and they changed and they became something else. And now we have something new here that is absolutely a wonderful addition, and I'm glad that we were able to have this chance to speak about your new position. And I look forward to talking next year on how you've grown and what's going to change the following year. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Dr. Holden, before we head out, of course, we have a very special evening coming up in March. That will be our second annual Night of Freedom.
That's correct. March 22nd at the National Underground Railroad downtown. And if you came last year, it was a wonderful event and quite crowded.
Very well attended.
It was
Absolutely.
very well attended, and it's a way to really see the talent we have in the district, the student talent, the academic talent, the musical talent, the artistic talent, all around a theme that really we partner with National Underground Railroad on, and this year's theme is Rise Up. So I invite everyone on March 22nd.
And doors open?
5:30 to 8.
So I know that we've talked about it before. We will be there, you will all be there, and I hope that you can join us as well. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you
Thank
for
you.
joining us
Yes,
today. And of course, thank you for joining us. You have been listening and watching the Warrior SuperCast here on Waycross Community Media, the podcast for the Wynwood School District highlighting the superstars of the district. Have a great evening. We'll see you next month.